Welcome to day 58 of reading for 30 minutes every single day for the rest of my life. Today we got the Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah, I'm so excited. Let's get into it. I'm pretty sure I am at page 100 and something. I'm not entirely sure. Let's find out. And that was day 57. We are at the top of page 168. 168, alright. Got it. Let's run it. 168. Timer for 30 minutes. Starting now. Let's go. The men and dwarves were mostly talking of distant events and tellings of news of a kind that was becoming only too familiar. There was trouble away in the south, and it seemed that the men who had come up to the Greenway were on the move, looking for lands where they could find some peace. The Bree folk were sympathetic, but plainly not very ready to take a large number of strangers into their little land. One of the travelers, a squint-eyed, ill-favored fellow, was foretelling that more and more people would be coming north in the near future. If room isn't found for them, they'll find it in themselves. They've a right to live, same as the other folk. He said loudly. The local inhabitants did not look pleased at the prospect. The hobbits did not pay much attention to all of this, and did not, at the moment, seem to concern hobbits. Big folk could hardly beg for lodging in hobbit holes. They were more interested in Sam and Pippin, who were feeling quite at home and were chatting gaily about events in the Shire. Pippin roused a deal of laughter in an account of a collapse of the roof of the town hall in Michel Delving. Will Wilfoot in the Mayor, and the fastest hobbit in the West Farthing, had been buried in chalk, and came out like a flavoured dumpling. But there are several questions asked that made Frodo a little uneasy. One of the Breelanders, who seemed to have been in the Shire several times, wanted to know where the Underhills lived, and who they were related to. Suddenly, Frodo noticed that a strange-looking, weather-beaten man, sitting at the shadows near the wall, was also listening intently to the hobbit talk. He had a tall tankard in front of him, and he was smoking a long-stemmed pipe, curiously carved. His legs were stretched out before him, showing high boots of supply leather that fitted him well, that had been seen much wear and were now caked with mud. A travel-stained cloak of heavy dark green cloth was drawn close about him, and in spite of the heat of the room he wore a hood that overshadowed his face, but the gleam of his eyes could be seen as he watched the hobbits. "Who is that?" Frodo asked, when he got a chance to whisper Mr. Butter. "I don't think you introduced him." Him?" said the landlord of an answering whisper, cooking an eye without turning his head. "I don't rightly know. He's one of the wandering folk. Rangers, we call them. He seldom talks, not but what he can tell a rare tale when he has the mind. He disappears for a month or a year when he pops up again. He was in and out pretty often last spring, but I haven't seen him out about lately. What his right name is I've never heard, but he's known round here as Strider. He goes about a great pace on his long shanks, though he don't tell nobody what 'cause he has to hurry. But there's no accounting for East and West, as they in Bree, meaning the Rangers and the Shire folk, begging your pardon. Funny you should ask about them." But at that moment Mr. Butterbur was called away by a demand for more ale, and his last remark remained unexplained. Frodo found that Strider was now looking at him, as if he had heard or guessed all that had been said. Presently, with a wave of his hand and a nod, he invited Frodo to come over and sit by him. As Frodo drew nearer, he threw back his hood, showing a baggy head of dark-haired fecked with grey, and a pale, stern face, a pair of keen grey eyes. "I am called Strider," he said in a low voice. "I am very pleased to meet you, Master Underhill. Of Old Butter got your name right." "He did," said Frodo stiffly. He felt far from comfortable under the stare of those keen eyes. "Well, Master Underhill," said Strider, "if I were you, I should stop your young friends from talking too much. Drink fire and chance meeting are pleasant enough, but well, this isn't the Shire. There are queer folk about. Though I say it shouldn't, you think. He added a weird smile. Frodo's glance, and there have been even stranger travelers through Bree lately, he went on, watching Frodo's face. Frodo returned his gaze, but said nothing, and Strider made no further sign. His attention seemed suddenly to be fixed on Pippin. To his alarm, Frodo became aware that the ridiculous young Took, encouraged by his success with the fat mayor of Michel Delving, was now actually giving a comic account of Bilbo's farewell party. He was already giving an imitation of the speech. He was drawing near to the astonishing disappearance. Frodo was annoyed. It was a harmless enough tale of most of the local hobbits, no doubt, just a funny story about those funny people away beyond the river. But some, old Butterbur, for instance, knew a thing or two and had probably heard rumors long about Bilbo's vanishings. It would bring the name of Baggins to their minds, especially if they had been inquiries in Bree after that name. Frodo fidgeted, wondering what to do. Pippin was evidently much enjoying the attention he was getting and had become quite forgetful of their danger. Frodo had a sudden fear that in his present mood he would even mention the ring, and that might well be disastrous. You had better do something quick, whispered Strider in his ear. Frodo jumped up and stood on a table and began to talk. The attention of Pippin's audience was disturbed. Some of the hobbits looked at Frodo and laughed and clapped, thinking that Mr. Underhill had taken as much ale as was good for him. Frodo, suddenly very foolish, found himself, and was his habit when making a speech, fingering the things in his pocket. He felt the ring in his chain, and quite unaccountably the desire came over him to slip it on and vanish out of the silly situation. It seemed to him somehow as if the suggestion came to him from outside, from someone or something in the room. He resisted the temptation firmly and clasped the ring in his hand as if to keep hold to it to prevent it from escaping or doing any mischief. At any rate, it gave him no inspiration. He spoke a few suitable words, as they would have said in the Shire. We are all very much gratified by the kindness of your reception, and I venture to hope that my brief visit will help to renew the old ties of friendship between the Shire and Bree. And then he hesitated and coughed. Everyone in the room was now looking at him. A song, shouted one of the hobbits. A song, shouted all the others. Come on now, master, sing us something that we haven't heard before. For a moment Frodo stood gaping. Then in desperation he began a ridiculous song that Bilbo had been rather fond of, and indeed rather proud of, for he had made up the words himself. It was about an inn, and that is probably why it came to Frodo's mind just then. Here it is in full. Only a few words of it are now, as a rule, remembered. Oh, it's a long song. There was a loud and long applause. Frodo had a good voice, and the song tickled their fancy. Where's old Barley? They cried. He ought to hear this. Bob ought to learn his cat and the fiddle, and then we'd have a chance. They called for more ale and began to shout. Let's have it again, master. Come on now, once more. They made Frodo have another drink, and then begin his song again, while many others joined him.
Sorry guys, I have my bowl right there.
While many others joined him. While many others of them joined in, for the tune was well unknown, and they were quick at picking up words. It was now Frodo's turn to feel pleased with himself. He capered about on the table, and when he came to a second time to the cow jumped over the moon, he leaped in the air, much too vigorously, for he came down bang into a tray full of mugs, and slipped and rolled off the table with a crash, clatter, and a bump. The audience all opened their mouths wide of laughter and stopped short in gaping silence, for the singer disappeared. He simply vanished, as if he had gone slap through the floor without leaving a hole. The local hobbits stared in amazement, and then sprang into their feet and shouted for Barliman. All the company drew away from the Pippin and Sin, who found themselves left alone in a corner, and eyed darkly and doubtfully from a distance. It was plain that many people regarded them now as the companions of a traveling magician of unknown powers and purpose. There was one swarthy Breelander who stood looking at them with a knowing and half-mocking expression that made them feel very uncomfortable. Presently he slipped out of the door, followed by a squint-eyed Southerner. The two had been whispering together a good deal during the event. Harry the gatekeeper also went out just behind them. Frodo felt a fool. Not knowing what else to do, he crawled away under the tables to a dark corner of the Strider, who sat unmoved, giving no signs of his thoughts. Frodo leaned back against the wall. Elves and hobbits always refer to the sun as she. Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Wallen took off the ring. How it came onto his finger he could not tell. He only supposed that he had been handling it in his pocket while he sang, and then somehow it had slipped on when he had stuck out his hand with a jerk to save his fall. For a moment he wondered if the ring itself had not played him a trick. Perhaps it had tried to reveal itself in response to some wish or command that was felt in the room. He did not like the looks of the men that had gone out. "Well," said Strider, when he reappeared, "why did you do that? Worse than anything your friends could have said. You put your foot in it, or should I say your finger." "I don't know what you mean," said Frodo, annoyed and alarmed. "Oh, yes, you do," answered Strider, "but we had better wait until the uproar has died down. Then, if you please, Mr. Baggins, I should like a quiet word with you." "What about?" asked Frodo, ignoring the sudden use of her proper name. "A matter of some importance to us both," answered Strider, looking Frodo in the eye. "You must hear something to your advantage." "Very well," said Frodo, trying to appear unconcerned. "I'll talk to you later." Meanwhile, an argument was going on by the fireplace. Mr. Butterbur had been trotting in, and was now trying to listen to several conflicting accounts of the event at the same time. "I saw him, Mr. Butterbur," said a hobbit. "Or at leastways I didn't see him, if you take my meaning. He just vanished into the air, in a manner of speaking." "You don't say, Mr. Mugwort," said the landlord, looking puzzled. "Yes, I do," replied Mugwort, "and I mean what I say. What's more, there's some mistake somewhere," said Butterbur, shaking his head. "There's too much of it, that Mr. Underhill, to go vanishing into the air, or into thick air, as it more likely in this room." "Well, where's he now?" cried several voices. "How should I know? He is welcome to go where he will, so long as he pays in the morning. There's Mr. Took now, he's not vanished." "Well, I saw what I saw what I didn't," said Mugwort obstinately. "I say there's some mistake," repeated Butterbur, picking up the tray and gathering up the broken crockery. "Of course there's a mistake," said Frodo. "I haven't vanished. Here I am, just as I've been a few words with Strider in the corner." He came forward into the firelight, but most of the company backed away even more perturbed than before. They were not in the least satisfied by his explanation that he had crawled away quickly under the tables after he had fallen. Most of the hobbits and men of Bree went off then and there in a huff, having no fancy of further entertainment that evening. One or two gave Frodo a black look and departed muttering among themselves. The dwarfs and the two of the strange men that still remained got up and said good night to the landlord, but not to Frodo and his friends. Before long no one was left but Strider, who sat on, unnoticed, by the wall. Mr. Butterbur did not seem much to put out. He reckoned very probable, but his house would not full again on many future nights, until the present mystery had been thoroughly discussed. "Now what have you been doing, Mr. Underhill?" he asked, "frightened by my customers and breaking up the rocks with your acrobatics?" "I am very sorry to have caused any trouble," said Frodo. "It was quite unintentional, I assure you. A most unfortunate accident." "All right, Mr. Underhill, but if you're going to do any more tumbling or conjuring, or whatever it was, you'd best warn folk beforehand and warn me. We're a bit suspicious round here of anything out of the way, uncanny, if you understand me, and we don't take it all of a sudden. I ain't shan't be doing anything of that sort, Mr. Butterbur, I promise you. And now I think I'll be getting to bed. We should be making an early start. Will you see that our ponies are ready by 8 o'clock? "Very good, but before you go, I should like a word with you in a private, Mr. Underhill. Something that just came back to my mind what I ought to tell you. I hope that you'll not take it amiss. When I've sing a thing or two, I'll come along to your room if you're willing." "Certainly," said Frodo, but his heart sank. He wondered how many private talks he would have before he got to bed, and what they would reveal. Would these people all in league against him? He began to suspect even Butterburst's fat face of concealing dark designs. Chapter 10, Strider. Alright, I'll be right back. Hold on. I'll be right back. We're at chapter 10, Strider. Alright, I'm back. Chapter 10, Strider. Let's get it. Frodo, Pippin, and Sam made their way back to the parlor. There was no light. Merry was not there, and the fire had burned out. It was not until they had puffed up the embers in a glaze and thrown on a couple of faggots that they were discovered Strider had come with them. There he was calmly sitting in a chair by the door. "Hello," said Pippin. "Who are you, and what do you want?" "I am called Strider," he answered, and although he have may forgotten it, if your friend promised to have a quiet talk with me. "You said I might hear something to my advantage, I believe," said Frodo. What you have to say?" "Several things," answered Strider, "but of course I have my price." "What do you mean?" asked Frodo sharply. "Don't be alarmed. I mean just this. I will tell you what I know and give you some good advice, but I shall not want a reward." "And what will that be, pray?" said Frodo. He suspected now that he had fallen in with a rascal, and he had thought uncomfortably that he had brought only a little money with him. All of it would hardly satisfy a rogue, and he could not spare any of it. "No more than you can afford," answered Strider with a slow smile, as if he guessed Frodo's thoughts. "Just this: you must take me along with you until I wish to leave you." Damn. "All of it would hardly satisfy a rogue." "No more than you could afford," answered Strider with a slow smile. "Oh, indeed," replied Frodo, surprised but not much relieved. "Even if I wanted another companion, I should not agree to any such thing until I knew a good deal more about you and your business." "Excellent," exclaimed Strider, crossing his legs and sitting back comfortably. "You seem to be coming up to your senses again, and that is all too good. You have been much too careless so far." "Very well, I will tell you what I know and leave the reward to you. You may be glad to grant it when you have heard me." "Go on then," said Frodo. What do you know?" "Too much. Too many dark things," said Strider grimly. "But as for your business," he got up and went to the door, opened it quickly and have a looked out. Then he shut it quietly and sat back down. "I have quick ears," he went on, lowering his voice, "and though I cannot disappear, I have haunted many wilds and wary things, and I can avoid being seen, if I wish. Now, I was behind the hedge this evening on the road west of Bree when 4 hobbits came out of the downlands. I did not repeat all that they said to the old Bombadil or to one another, but one thing interested me. Please remember, said one of them, that the name of Baggins must not be mentioned. I am Mr. Underhill, if any name must be given. That interested me in so much that I followed them here. I slipped through the gate just behind them. Maybe Mr. Baggins was an honest reaction for leaving his name behind, but I should advise him and his friends to be more careful. I don't see what interest my name has for anyone in Bree, said Frodo angrily. And I have still to learn why it interests you. Mr. Strider have an old honest reason for spying and eavesdropping? If so, I should advise him to explain it. Well answered, said Strider, laughing, but the explanation is simple. I was looking for a hobbit called Frodo Baggins. I wanted to find him quickly. I had learned that he was carrying out of the Shire, a secret that concerned me and my friends. Now, don't mistake me, he cried as Frodo rose from his seat, and Sam jumped with a scowl. I shall take more of the secret than you do, and care is needed. He leaned forward and looked at them. Watch every shadow, he said in a low voice. Black horsemen have passed through Bree. On Monday, one came down the Greenway, they say, and another appeared later, coming up the Greenway from the south. There was a silence. At last Frodo spoke to Pippin and Sam. I ought to have guessed it from the way the gatekeeper greeted us, he said, and the landlord seemed to have heard something. Why did he press us to join the company? And why on earth did we behave so foolishly? We ought to have stayed quiet in here. It would have been better, said Strider. I would have stopped your going into the common room if I could, but the innkeeper would not let me see you or take a message. Do you think he began Frodo? No, I don't think any harm of old Butterbur. Only he does not altogether like mysterious vagabonds of some sort. Frodo gave him a puzzled look. Well, I have rather a rascally look, have I not? Said Strider with a curl of his lip and a queer gleam in his eye. But I hope we will get to know one another better. When we do, I hope you will have explained what happened at the end of your song. For what little prank? It was a sheer accident, interrupted Frodo. I wonder, said Frodo. Accident, then. That accident has made your position dangerous. Hardly more than it was already, said Frodo. I knew these horsemen were pursuing me, but now at any rate they have seemed to miss me and to have gone away. You must not count on that, said Strider sharply. They will return, and more are coming. There are others. I know their number, and I know these riders. He paused, and his eyes were cold and hard, and there were some folk in Bree who were not to be trusted. He went on. Bill Fernley, for instance. He was an evil name in the Bree-land, and queer folk call at his house. You must have noticed him among the company. A swarthy, sneering fellow. He was very close with one of the southern strangers, and they slipped out together just after your accident. Not all of those southerners mean well, and as for Fernie, he would sell anything to anybody, or make mischief for amusement. What will Fernie sell, and what has my accident got to do with him? Said Frodo, still determined not to understand Strider's hints. News of you, of course, answered Strider. An account of your performance will be very interesting to certain people. After that, they would hardly need to be told your real name. It seems to me only too likely that they will hear of it before this night is over. Is that enough? You can do as you like about my reward. Take me as a guide or not. But I say that I know all the lands between the Shire and the Misty Mountains, and I have wandered over them for many years. I am older than I look. I might prove useful. You will have to leave the open road after tonight, for the horsemen will watch it night and day. You may escape from Bree and be allowed to go forward while the sun is up, but you won't go far. They will come on you in the wild, in some dark places where there is no help. Do you wish them to find you? They are terrible. Those hobbits looked at them, and they saw with surprise that The hobbits looked at him and saw with surprise that his face was drawn as if with pain, and his hands clenched the arms of his chair. The room was very quiet and still, and the light seemed to have grown dim. For a while he sat with unseeing eyes as if walking in distant memory or listening to the sounds of the night far away. There, he cried after a moment, drawing his hand across his brow. Perhaps I know more about those pursuers than you do. You fear them, but you do not fear them enough yet. Tomorrow you will have to escape if you can. Strider can take you by paths that are seldom trodden. Will you have him? There was a heavy silence. Frodo made no answer. His mind was confused with doubt and fear. Sam frowned and looked at his master. At last he broke out. "With your leave, Mr. Frodo, I say no. This Strider here, he warns that he says take care, and he says yes to that, and let's begin with him. With your leave, Mr. Frodo, I'd say no. This Strider here, he warns and he says take care, and I say yes to that, and let's begin with him. He comes out of the wild, and I never heard no good of such folk. He knows something, that's plain, and more than I like, but it's for no reason why should we let him go leading us into some dark place far from help, as he puts it." Pippin fidgeted and looked uncomfortable. Strider did not reply to Sam, but turned his keen eyes on Frodo. Frodo caught his glance and looked away. "No," he said slowly, "I don't agree. I think you are not really as you choose to look. You began to talk to me like brave folk, but your voice has changed." Still, Sam seemed right in this. "I don't see why you should warn us to take care, and yet asks us to take on trust. Why the disguise? Who are you, and who do you really know about what do you really know about my business, and how do you know it?" "The lesson in caution has been very well learned," said Strider with a grim smile. "But caution is one thing and wavering is another. You will never get to Rivendell now on your own, and to trust me is your only chance. You must make up your mind. I will answer some of your questions if that will help you to do so. But why you should believe my story if you do not trust me already, still, here it is." Shit. Here we go. At that moment there came a knock on the door. Mr. Butterbur had arrived with candles, and behind him was Nob and cans of hot water. Strider withdrew into a darker corner. "I've come to bid you good night," said the landlord, putting on the candles on the table. "Nob, take the water to the rooms." He came in and shut the door. "It's like this," he began, hesitating and looking troubled. "If I've done any harm, I'm sorry indeed, but one thing drives out another, as you'll admit, and I'm a very busy man. But first one thing and then another this week have jogged out my memory, as the saying goes. And not too late, I hope. You see, I was asked to look out for hobbits of the Shire, and only by the name of the Baggins in particular. And what has that got to do with me?" asked Frodo. "Ah, you know best," said the landlord knowingly. "I won't give you away, but I was told that this Baggins would not be going on the name of Underhill, and I was given a description that fits you well enough, if I may say so." "Indeed, let's have it then," said Frodo, unwisely interrupting. "A stout little fellow with the red cheeks," and Mr. Butterbur solemnly. Pippin chuckled, but Sam looked indignant. "That won't help you much. It goes for most hobbits. Barley, he says to me," continued Mr. Butterbur with a glance at Pippin. "But this one is taller than some and fairer than most, and he had a cleft in his chin. Perky chap with a bright eye. Begging your pardon, but he said it, not me." I'm reading in my head, I'm sorry. I'm reading in my head, guys.
This motherfucker.
And that was 30 minutes. I'm at the top. That was day 58. I'm at the top of page 180. Let's go.